So an isosceles trapezoid is similar to an isosceles triangle. Two sides are congruent. So an isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with two congruent legs. So remember, the two sides that are parallel, those are our bases. And then the two sides that are not parallel, we're going to call legs. So if it's an isosceles trapezoid, those two legs are congruent to each other. So legs are congruent. And then just like in an isosceles triangle, when the legs are congruent, the sides are congruent, then those base angles were congruent. Similar in a trapezoid. These two base angles are going to be congruent to each other, as well as these base angles up here. That should have three curvies, two curvies, two curvies. So these top base angles are congruent, and those bottom base angles are congruent. But notice the blue angle and the pink angle are not congruent to each other. So the base angles are also congruent. And then in a isosceles trapezoid, the diagonals, so this diagonal and that diagonal, the lengths of those diagonals are going to be the same. So those diagonals are also congruent. So you can kind of think of this as like I have two triangles and they're congruent by side, angle, side, side, angle, side, and so by CPCTC, those diagonals are congruent. That's just, that'll come up later. So a couple things to think about in a trapezoid. So these two sides are parallel. So if you think about parallel lines and a transversal, which we haven't really thought about in a long time, these two angles are same side interior angles. So this angle and this angle are going to be supplementary because they're same side interior angles. So those are supplementary, and then these are also same side interior. So this angle and, well, this is true for all trapezoids, not just isosceles, but this angle and this angle are also going to be supplementary. But these two top angles are not supplementary because these pink lines are not parallel. These two bottom angles are not supplementary because these two legs are not parallel. So these are supplementary because they're same side interior. These are parallel. And then these are supplementary because these are parallel. And then one more thing to remember is if you add up all four sides, another thing to remember is if you add up all four interior angles in a quadrilateral, we learned that formula to find the sum of all the interior angles. You do 180 times the number of sides, which is 4 minus 2. So 180 times 2 is 360. So don't forget that you can add up these four angles in this trapezoid, and they should always add up to 360 degrees total. So that can be a handy, useful tool as well. All right, so in this example, notice we have our two parallel bases. This is a base and this is a base, making these my legs, leg and leg. Oh, look, they're both 6, so they're congruent. Ah, this is an isosceles trapezoid. So these base angles are congruent, making this bad boy 80, and then these base angles up here are also going to be congruent. But I know that these are parallel, making these same side interior, making them supplementary to each other. So this green angle K and angle L, they're going to add up to 180 degrees because they are same side interior, so they're supplementary. So I can subtract 80 from 180. 180 minus 80 gives me 100. So angle K is 100 degrees. So the measure of angle K is 100 degrees.